All right, today we're going to tackle a huge topic, one that affects billions of people but can feel, well, super complicated. We're talking about rural development. And to make sense of it all, we're going to build a kind of roadmap together. So let's just start with the biggest question right off the bat, the one that shapes this whole explainer. How in the world do you even begin to create a plan to develop a country's rural areas? I mean, they're vast, they're diverse. Where do you even start? For this journey, our map is going to be this right here. It might not look like much, but it's the index page from a textbook unit on rural development. And what's so great about it is that it lays out the entire logical structure for how experts think about this. So we're just going to follow it, step by step. Okay, let's dive into this. Every good journey needs a clear starting point, right? You got to know where you're standing. So our first stop on the map is getting a real handle on the most fundamental question. What exactly is rural development? At its heart, it's really about a planned, long-term effort to improve the quality of life for everyone living outside of big cities. And a few words here are absolutely key. Systematic means it's got a plan. It's not just random acts. Sustainable means it's built to last for future generations. And, this is crucial, it's not just about money and economics. It's about social and political well-being too, the whole shebang. So now that we have a good idea of what it is, our roadmap naturally leads us to the next big question. Why? Why do it? What's the driving force behind all these massive nationwide efforts? This part really gives the whole topic its sense of purpose. And what's really fascinating here is how our map splits the why into two distinct ideas. On one side, you have the need. That's the push factor. It's about solving urgent problems like poverty or a lack of basic infrastructure. But on the other side, you have the importance, and that's the pull factor. It's all about the incredible potential and growth that, when unlocked, can benefit the entire nation. So it's not just fixing problems, it's about building a better future. Okay, so we get the what and we get the why. But how do you actually go about creating a real plan? This is where our map shows us the blueprint, breaking down the planning process itself. And this lays out the logic so perfectly. First, you have to define clear objectives. What are we trying to do here? Is it increasing literacy, providing clean water? Then you determine the scope. Are we focusing just on agriculture, or are we looking at health, education, the whole lot? And finally, you identify the specific components. These are the actual building blocks, the real-world programs and actions. This is where you get things like building new schools or constructing roads through a huge national scheme like India's PM Gram Sadak Yojana, which aims to connect every single village. Or it could be creating job programs like MGNRGA, which guarantees rural employment. This is where the plan really meets the people. Now let's move to our final section because, well, no roadmap is any good if it doesn't show you the mountains you have to climb and the rivers you have to cross, right? We have to understand the real-world obstacles that stand in the way. And our map points us to this final, absolutely critical piece of the puzzle. We have to confront the difficulties on the ground. To have any chance of success, a plan has to be brutally realistic about these roadblocks. And as we're about to see, they come in different shapes and sizes. Thinking about it this way is so incredibly helpful. Issues are those big, ongoing debates, things like land reform policy that people argue about for years. Challenges are these huge obstacles that really test our limits, like how climate change impacts farming. And then you have problems, which are specific, concrete things that need a direct fix, like a single village that doesn't have a reliable source of electricity. A really good, robust plan has to be ready to tackle all three of those levels. So there we have it. We've journeyed all the way from the basic definition of rural development to the really complex challenges it faces. We've got the map, so the final question, I'm going to turn it over to you. Looking at this entire framework, from defining the concept to planning the blueprint and facing the problems, what single element do you think is the most essential for actually making rural development a reality?